chatting all about Pitta and Pitta subtypes this morning. Welcome, my name is Nina Sachs. I am one of the directors here at the Academy of Yoga and Ayurveda, where we have our 200, 300-hour yoga teacher training, 40-hour training in Ayurveda, and our 100-hour bridging course for those of you who are already teachers and would like to explore a little bit more Hatha Yoga with a focus on Ayurveda. So today we're delving into Pitta and the subtypes of Pitta. In the last couple of days, we've been speaking about Vata. Remember, Vata is air and ether, and we've been looking at the 5 subtypes of Vata. So if that's interesting to you, be sure to head back to one of those videos and catch that recording, those recordings. Today, we're going to be doing a little bit of an introduction, and then in the upcoming days, delve into each of the Pitta subtypes so that you can get a little bit more knowledge about that and figure out if Ayurveda is something that you want to delve into a little bit more. So we're heading to my favorite friend, Dr. Vasant Lad, and this is what he has to say when it comes to Pitta and subtypes of Pitta. The word Pitta comes from tapa, and you probably all have come across, or if you've been studying, if you've been a diligent yoga student, you've heard the word tapas. Tapa means to heat, to become hot. So often that is what we talk about when we're talking about growth and development. It means austerity and concentration. The word Pitta means the energy that creates heat in the body. And this is key. The energy that creates the heat in the body. Pitta in the body is a biological combination, principally of fire and water. So again, if you're not sure about the Pitta dosha, head back, just pop in Pitta dosha, and you'll get our lesson on Pitta and the Pitta characteristics and the attributes, which are really, really interesting. But just to remind you of like some of the qualities very quickly. So the qualities of Pitta, as you can imagine, if you think of fire, it is hot, it is sharp, it is light, it is liquid, because there's that water residue. It is spreading, it is oily and sour. Lastly, Pitta has a fleshy smell and is pungent and bitter to the taste. Just remembering that. All right, the upper part of the stomach, we're going to get into the parts now with regards to where Pitta lies, is related to Kapha. So if you think of like your stomach and you kind of like know that it is like a little bit curved, the upper part, that is Kapha. That's kind of like where all the mucousy stuff is that we often talk about, which we will cover when we get into Kapha. But the lower part of the stomach, which is called the greater curvature, is related to Pitta. And Pitta is present in the stomach, the small intestine, in the blood, as well as the liver, the gallbladder, and the spleen. So if you think of all those organs kind of like in the stomach area, those are all highly related to Pitta. It has an affinity for and concentrates in these sites. It is also present in the eyes. So if you think of like fire, seeing, solar plexus, it's all related to that sense. Now you can see like how the chakras also start to come into play with this. Sweat, sebaceous secretions, and the gray matter of the brain, the thinking, kind of like we always say, like the Pitta people are like the A-type personalities. They got like that focus. They go, go, go. So just seeing how all these things are slowly starting to create that puzzle. All these little puzzle pieces are starting to create that bigger picture. Nevertheless, the most important site of Pitta for therapeutic purposes is small intestines. And this is really important when it comes to you and your yoga students, and teaching yoga is understanding that. Sorry, I hope you've been able to hear me. My mic was a little funny. That, all of that. Next time, just leave it in the comments if that's happening. Now I got distracted. What was I saying? That, oh yes, if you're a yoga teacher, the focus of Pitta is all in the small intestine. And this is important to know for when you're teaching. So if someone has got maybe a Pitta imbalance, maybe there's a little bit of heat, you know exactly that you actually need to work in this area. Focus on postures that are either kind of like activating if it's too low, or gently releasing and helping them release the heat from this. And Jennifer, I remember, I'll just share this with you. She's a beautiful posture of kind of like being in Virasana and then just leaning back and like opening up that space when there's just too much heat and too much happening in the small intestine area. And so this is why you really want to come onto one of our trainings, because we'll delve into each of these areas and give you a lot of practical tips that can be helpful for you specifically. And if you actually have any students with specific conditions, Jennifer will be able to answer literally every single one of your questions and give you some really practical advice. So Pitta in the small intestine is present as digestive enzymes, in the stomach as hydrochloric acid, pepsin, and gastric intrinsic factor, in the blood as hemoglobin, in the liver as bile. The spleen is a big reservoir where blood is filtered, and Pitta is present in the blood. So that's how you can see like all these organs in this area have a high concentration of Pitta. Pitta in the spleen kills bacteria and parasites, especially of like malaria. So this is really important to me because I'm living in Mozambique, like malaria is high there. And so you really want to keep your liver and the Pitta levels functioning well so that should you get any parasites or bacteria, that your liver is able to process those smoothly and effectively and efficiently. When the body is hot, Pitta is released through sweat as a cooling mechanism. People who do not sweat accumulate fire in the body at the root in the fire of the body. So this is often what we also notice kind of like in menopause happening, that there is this accumulation of heat. And often what you actually want to do is you want to be able to, in a sense, if you're not sweating, or that's why often like women will have those night sweats, because the Pitta is accumulating and it wants to be able to release. So if you and this is why I'm speaking to you 30 and 40-year-olds out there, if you're not doing cardiovascular exercise where your body is actually sweating and releasing, your body is going to do it at some point, and it'll definitely do it at menopause in the latest point in time. So you really want to make sure that you are starting now already to release the excess heat that your body is creating through practices like saunas, steam baths, cardiovascular exercise, so that it is not going to be as intense when menopause arises. That is a little side note for all you women listening. All right, people who do not sweat accumulate fire in the body. At the root of the hair, sebaceous secretions hold the hair tight. Now, this is important. If the sebaceous secretions are in excess, the hair lose their grip and fall out. Pitta people have a problem with hair loss, and that is something that you might notice in yourself or in others. If you know someone that has an issue with hair loss, like Craig, he lost his hair in his 20s already, and that just kind of like is a reminder that like there is a high amount of Pitta in that constitution. And so what I know is that I need to generally make sure that a lot of my foods and practices and the way I communicate with him is a lot more cooling and not fiery, because it's just going to add fire to fire. And this is where and how I love Ayurveda, is that it is so simple to understand and not very complex. And you just really need to grasp the basics. Then you understand yourself better. Then you understand how you can relate with others, and you understand others better. And this is key, and this is really, really helpful. So I hope this has been insightful. I hope this has been helpful. Give me a thumbs up if it has. Leave a comment if you know of someone who is Pitta, or if you have a lot of Pitta in you. It's always good to hear. And I will catch up with you tomorrow, where we're going to be delving a little bit more into the sites of Pitta and what those 5 sites, the main sites, are. And then we'll be delving more into the others. So be sure to subscribe, to follow along, so that you can get reminders each time we go live. Have a beautiful day, and I will catch you tomorrow. Bye. All right, guys.